Now we shall move to teaching approaches. An approach is a way of looking at teaching and learning. Fundamental of any language teaching approach is a theoretical view of what language is and of how it can be learned. An approach gives rise to method, the way of teaching something, which use classroom activities or techniques to help students learn. For example, the communicative approach is the best known current approach to language teaching. The teaching approach, teaching strategy and teaching methods have significant role in teaching learning process. The teaching approach is a set of principles, beliefs or ideas about the nature of learning which is translated into the classroom, whereas teaching strategy is a long-term plan of action designed to achieve a particular goal, and teaching method is a systematic way of doing something. It implies an orderly logical arrangement of steps. Now we shall discuss different teaching approaches. There are 8 important teaching approaches. Number 1, teacher center approach, learner center approach, subject matter center approach, interactive approach, constructivist approach. 6 is integrated approach, 7th is collaborative approach, and last one is research based approach. Let us discuss these teaching approach in detail. The first approach is teacher center approach. In this approach, the teacher decides what is to be learned and what is to be tested and how the class is to be run. Often the teacher is in the center of the classroom giving instruction and little input from the students. In this approach, students are passive participant and the teacher is active. Direct teaching is a form of teacher-centered instruction where the focus of the lesson is on distributing facts to students. The second teaching approach is learner-centered approach. The term learner-centered learning refers to wide variety of educational programs, learning experiences, instructional approaches and academic support strategy that are intended to address the distinct learning needs, interest, aspiration or cultural background of individual students and group of students. The students construct knowledge through gathering and synthesizing information and integrating it with the general skills of inquiry, communication, critical thinking and problem solving. In this approach, students are more active than a teacher. Now, the third approach is subject matters approach. In a subject matter approach, each content area contains its own set of skills and concept for mastering that content. For example, in science, students learn about scientific method and science related vocabulary. This knowledge is then used when students conduct experiment and investigations. The fourth one is interactive approach. In this approach, an interactive classroom will have more student talk and less teacher talk. Students are given the opportunity to interact with the teacher and with other students. Instead of listening to the teacher exclusively, students and teacher interact equally. In an interactive teaching approach, group work is encouraged and students learn to collaborate and communicate with each other. The fifth teaching approach is Constructivist Approach. The Constructivist approach is based on the belief that the students learn best when they gain knowledge through explorations and active learning. In this approach, hands-on material are used instead of textbook, and students are encouraged to think and explain their reasoning instead of memorizing and reciting facts. In this approach, the students are expected to construct knowledge and find the meaning of what they have learned by connecting them to prior experience. In the constructivist approach, it is also expected that students should construct knowledge of whole world in which they live. The sixth teaching approach is integrated approach. An integrated approach allows students to explore, gather, process, refine and present information about the topics they want to investigate without constraint imposed by traditional subject barriers. An integrated approach allows students to engage in purposeful and relevant learning. Also, integrated learning encourages students to see the interconnectedness and interrelationships between the curriculum area rather than focusing on learning in isolated curriculum area. The seventh teaching approach is collaborative approach. In collaborative approach, students are engaged in a common task in which each individual depends on and is accountable to each other. It involves the use of small groups so that all students can maximize their learning and that of their peers. In this approach, group work, teamwork, partnerships and group discussion are given to the students. The eighth teaching approach is research-based approach. The aim of research-based approach is to explore knowledge and find the solution of a problem by scientific method. The students are being given different tasks for developing their inbuilt abilities, competencies, attitude, etc. This approach promotes creativity, original thinking and problem solving skills of the students. So, in this session, we have discussed 8 important teaching approaches, namely teacher-centered approach, learner-centered approach, subject matter-centered approach, interactive approach, constructivist approach, integrated approach, collaborative approach, and last one we discuss research-based approach. In this session, we have discussed the concept of teaching strategy, its characteristics, objectives, types of teaching strategy, namely autocratic and permissive, and also we discuss teaching approaches. Thank you very much.